Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It really helps YouTube recommend more stories like this one to you. Alright, let's jump right in.
The first time I saw him, I was dragging my trash down the hallway, half asleep in an old hoodie and socks. He stood outside apartment 2B like he didn't know how keys worked, just holding the doorknob. Turning it back and forth, over and over. His head snapped toward me so fast. I almost dropped my garbage. We locked eyes. His face didn't twitch, didn't smile, didn't blink. He looked at me like he was watching something dying slowly. Then he went inside without a word. That was my first week in the building. I told myself he was just weird. You get that a lot in cheap city apartments. I wasn't exactly living in luxury. The elevator hadn't worked in years, and the lights flickered every time the wind blew. But 2B, something about that unit felt off. Always too quiet. Like the kind of silence that listens back. The next few nights, I kept hearing a scraping sound in the walls, like someone slowly dragging a hanger along the inside of the pipes. It was subtle at first, almost ignorable. But by night 4, it was nonstop. I knocked on 2B's door. No answer. I knocked harder. Still nothing. When I leaned in to listen, I heard breathing. Right up against the door, I said something dumb like, "Hey, sorry to bother you. Just wondering if you're doing some kind of renovation or ... The breathing stopped. I waited. Then something scratched the other side of the door. That was it. I went back inside, locked every deadbolt I had, and shoved a chair under the knob. 2 days later, my cat went missing. She was an indoor tabby, never even looked at the front door. I tore my place apart. No open windows. No gaps, nothing. I checked the stairwell, the lobby, the alley behind the building. Nothing. That night, the scratching in the walls came back. This time, it sounded ... wet. And then I heard a noise that made me freeze. A meow. Not just any meow. Her meow. It was coming from inside the wall that bordered apartment 2B. I pressed my ear to the drywall. I could hear her, pawing, pacing, panting. Then a second sound joined it. Breathing. But heavier. Human. I knocked on the wall. "Hello, hello. My cat's in there. Can you hear me?" Nothing. The meowing stopped. I filed a report with the landlord the next day. He barely looked up from his phone. 2B? Yeah, that guy's harmless. Been there longer than I have. Keeps to himself. He took my cat, I said. You got any proof? I stared at him. Do you ever do maintenance in that unit? Not unless he asks. He pays rent on time. That's all I care about. That weekend, I decided to wait. I parked myself on a folding chair outside 2B's door with a mug of cold coffee and my phone camera ready. For hours. Nothing. Then, around 2:15 a.m., the door creaked open. He stepped out slowly, wearing a gray hoodie with the hood up, hands in the pockets. Something bulged from one of them, small, dangling like a keychain. Or a tail. He didn't even flinch when he saw me. Just walked right past, down the stairs, out the front door. I followed. He moved fast for someone who looked so ... slow. Turned corners without hesitation. Ducked down alleys like he'd memorized the city in reverse. Finally, he stopped behind an abandoned dry cleaner 2 blocks away. Just stood there, staring at the brick wall. Then he dug a hole. With his bare hands, I watched in complete disbelief as he pulled out something from his hoodie and dropped it into the shallow pit. He covered it. Turned. Looked directly at me, like he'd known I was there the whole time, and then smiled, not like a normal smile. All gums, no warmth. Like someone trying to imitate a human expression and getting it horribly wrong. I ran. Didn't look back. The next morning, I came back with gloves and a trowel. Found the exact spot. I dug at first, just dirt. Then plastic. Then bones small, curved, and a collar my cat's collar. I still have it. I keep it in a drawer with a Ziploc bag, because part of me still thinks I imagined it. But I didn't. I tried to call the police. They asked if I had proof. I said yes. They came. Dug up the bones. Sent them to some lab. A week later, I got a call saying they weren't definitively feline. The report said the bones were animal remains, potentially rodent. But my cat's name was etched on the collar. I told them about the guy in 2B. They went to question him. He didn't answer the door because the apartment was empty. Part 2. The cops leaving only made everything worse. They didn't seal the apartment. They didn't post anyone outside the door. They didn't even sound worried. Probably moved out, one of them said as he shrugged and walked away. Moved out. Yeah, sure. At 2 in the morning. Without anyone seeing. Without carrying a single thing, the door of 2B stayed shut for 3 days after that. No sounds, no lights, no movement. But the silence felt heavier than before, like the apartment was holding its breath. On the 4th night, I woke up at 3:14 a.m., not because of a noise, because of the absence of one. The scratching in the walls had stopped. For the first time in weeks, everything was completely still. That should have comforted me, but instead my stomach twisted. It felt like being in a room where a rattlesnake suddenly goes quiet. That silence wasn't normal. It was waiting. Around noon the next day, I heard my name, not spoken, whispered right outside my door. I froze. The air felt thick, like the hallway beyond my peephole had turned into something dense and cold. Double quotes. Open. It. I backed up so fast I hit the wall. I didn't breathe until the whisper faded. When I finally looked through the peephole, the hallway was empty, but the door to 2B was cracked open, just a sliver, like it was inviting me. I should have called the cops again. I should have packed my bags. I should have done literally anything except what I did. I opened my door. Only a few inches. Enough to see the opposite apartment. The crack in the door of 2B hadn't been an illusion. Someone or something had opened it a little wider. I swear I felt a draft of cold air coming from inside. Like the apartment exhaled. Hello? I whispered, even though my body screamed not to. Nothing. Not a shuffle. Not a breath. Just the hollow stillness of an empty room. I didn't step inside. I'm not that reckless. But I reached out, just barely, and nudged the door with my fingertips. It swung open all the way. Whatever I expected. Trash. Furniture. Weird smells. It wasn't this. It was empty. Completely. No couch. No bed. No appliances. No light bulbs. No curtains. No dust, no smell, no signs anyone had lived there for years. Just bare floors, white walls, and the quietest air I've ever heard. A cold draft brushed over my arm, and goosebumps spread instantly. The temperature had to be at least 10 degrees lower than the hallway. I whispered again, "Is anyone here?" Something answered. Not with a voice. With a sound, a slow, deliberate creak. Coming from the bathroom door at the end of the hallway, like someone was pushing it open with the gentlest pressure. I stepped back so hard my heel hit the opposite wall. My throat locked. My hands shook. I couldn't even scream. A shadow stretched across the floor from inside the bathroom. But nothing stepped out. Not yet. I slammed my door shut so fast the frame rattled. Locked everything. Chair under the knob. Lights on, but the moment I backed away, something hit the wall behind my bed. A single, solid thud. Then a second, then a third. The blows came in slow, steady intervals. Like someone tapping, not out of anger, but out of patience. Tap. Tap. Right where the wall connected to apartment 2B. I sat on the floor with my knees to my chest, listening as the tapping turned into scratching, then to dragging, then to breathing. Close, too close, like someone pressing their mouth against the drywall and exhaling. Onto the other side. I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I didn't move until the sun came up and the sounds finally stopped. The next morning, I went downstairs to the mailboxes just to be around other human beings. I didn't trust my own sanity anymore. The building manager was there, sorting packages. A woman named Luann. She'd been here for 20 years, and nothing ever surprised her. I asked her casually, "Hey, do you know who lived in 2B?" She stopped mid-sort. Her eyes lifted slowly. "No one lives in 2B, she said. "No, I mean before. No one," she repeated, sharper. "Lease hasn't been active for 3 years." My mouth went dry. "But I saw him. He lives there." "No, he doesn't." "But he doesn't," she snapped, grabbing her keys. "Don't ask again." She slammed the mailroom door behind her, like she was afraid I'd follow, or afraid something else would. That night, everything escalated. I woke up to the sound of my door handle turning, softly, slowly, back and forth. Just like the way he'd turned his own door handle the first day I saw him. I stayed completely still in the dark. Barely breathing, the handle turned. Again, then stopped, silence, then a soft knock, just once. But right at ear-level, then. I heard it, my cat, not a meow. Not panting, purring, right outside my door. I felt tears burn behind my eyes. I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Her purring grew louder, louder, like she was being held right against the door. Then another sound, layered under it. Breathing, long, heavy, not hers. I whispered, so quietly I barely heard myself. "Please go away." The breathing stopped. The purring stopped, silence, Then a voice whispered through the crack at the bottom of the door. "Found her." My entire body locked up. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. I just stared at the door like it was going to split open. The shadow under the door shifted, paused, then slowly pulled away, and the hallway went quiet again. I didn't wait until morning. Packed everything I could carry in 10 minutes and called an Uber. I didn't care about my deposit. I didn't care that half my stuff was still in the apartment. I just needed to get out. When I opened my front door, the hallway lights flickered. The air was ice cold, colder than the inside. The first night I moved into my new apartment, I heard footsteps above me. Not weird, right? Except I live on the top floor. Unit 403. And there's no apartment above me. Just the roof. I froze mid-unpacking, one hand inside a cardboard box, listening to slow, heavy pacing directly overhead. The thuds were steady, measured, like someone walking in circles. I stared up at the ceiling, then told myself it had to be the building. Settling, pipes, some kind of echo. But as the night dragged on, it kept happening. Every few minutes, steps. Directly over my bedroom, then the living room. Then back again, and then it stopped. Just like that, like whoever was up there had finished whatever they were doing. I asked the landlord the next morning, tried to sound casual. "Hey, what's above the 4th floor?" He didn't look up from his clipboard. "Just the roof, right. But like anything else, utility rooms? Access space?" "Nope, roof sealed. Only maintenance can get up there. And I'm the only one with the key." He tapped his clipboard like it was a punchline. "Why?" I hesitated. "I thought I heard someone up there last night," he smirked. "This building creaks, you'll get used to it." I tried to believe him. I really did. But that night, the footsteps came back, louder, not just pacing this time, running, back and forth. Fast and frantic, like someone sprinting from one side of the roof to the other, over and over again. I couldn't sleep. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, blanket clutched in my fists. Around 3 a.m., it stopped. The silence was somehow worse. Like whatever was up there had finally noticed me. The next morning, I went outside and looked up at the roof. Nothing there. No access ladder, no hatch. Just a flat, gray slab with a lip around the edge. I decided to ask my downstairs neighbor, Marta in 303, if she'd ever heard anything weird. "Oh sure," she said immediately, "but I thought it was you." "What?" "Running around all night, thudding, pacing." "I figured you had insomnia." My stomach twisted. I thought I was the only one hearing it. I said. Marta raised an eyebrow. "Wait, you're in 403? I nodded. She paused. "I used to live in 403. She told me she moved out of it because of the noise. Same exact thing. Footsteps above her. Every single night. Sometimes in the day, too. Always following her from room to room. She said she begged the landlord to check the roof. He said it was nothing, no access, no one up there. Just the building settling. So she left, moved one floor down, thinking it would help. But I still hear it sometimes," she whispered. "It's like whoever's up there doesn't know I moved." I didn't sleep at all that night. The footsteps started around midnight and didn't stop. But this time, they weren't just above me. They were right overhead, so close I could feel faint vibrations in the ceiling drywall. At one point, I swear I heard a voice. Like someone talking to themselves, fast, low, mumbled. And then something hit the ceiling so hard. A bit of dust fell into my eyes. That was it. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed onto my kitchen counter. There was a small square panel up there, attic style. I'd assumed it was access to wiring, but now I wasn't sure. I popped it open. A gust of cold air hit my face. Pitch black above. The smell of old insulation and dry rot. I raised my flashlight and aimed it inside. Just beams, dust, cobwebs. No obvious way to get onto the roof from there. But right at the edge, just barely visible, footprints, clear in the dust. Bare feet, long, narrow, they led straight across the beams and vanished at the wall, like someone had been crawling through the crawl space. Night after night, I told the landlord the next day. He sighed like I was asking him to help paint a wall. If there was someone up there, the motion sensors would have triggered. "You have motion sensors on the roof?" "Up. Last summer some junkies tried to sleep up there. We installed them after that." "So you'd know if someone was walking around?" "Exactly. They haven't gone off in months. But I'm hearing footsteps every single night." He finally looked at me. "Are you sure you're getting enough sleep?" I left. That night I got smart. I put my phone on record and left it on my dresser. I didn't even try to sleep. I just sat in the dark, waiting. At 2:17 a.m., it started. Slow, steady steps. I hit record again, this time holding my phone in my hands, pointed straight up at the ceiling. The steps passed directly above me. Then paused. Then something scraped. Like nails against the roof. Then, clear as day, I heard it. One soft knock. Right above my head. Just one. Like a test. Like a question. Spent the next day listening to the recording over and over. The knocks were real. The footsteps. The voice. I wasn't going insane. I decided to send it to a friend of mine, Sam. He's a sound tech. Super rational, science-minded. I sent the clip and asked him, could this be faked? Pipes, wind, whatever? He texted back, that's not plumbing. That's a person. Where the hell do you live? The following night, everything changed. The pacing started earlier. 11:42 p.m. But now it didn't stay above me. It moved through the apartment, over the living room, over the kitchen, then over the hallway. Like someone was following my layout. And then, for the first time, the footsteps stopped at my bedroom door, right above it, and didn't move. For hours. At 3:30 a.m., I lost it. I went outside, found the old fire escape on the side of the building, and started climbing. 4th floor. Then the roof. I jumped the ledge and pulled myself up. Cold, quiet, flat, nothing but gravel and vents and sky. But in the moonlight, I saw them. Footprints. The same ones I saw in the crawl space, long, bare, leading across the rooftop directly above my apartment. They stopped near a vent that led down into my unit. I crouched and looked inside. It smelled like breath. Part 2. I didn't tell anyone I went up on the roof. I think I was scared they'd lock me up. Or worse, tell me I imagined it all, but I know what I saw. Those footprints were real, leading to the vent that connects directly into my bedroom. And the smell, I can't explain it. Like a combination of sweat, mold, and something sweet. Almost rotting. Like breath that's been trapped too long. When I got back inside, I sealed the vent shut. Screws, tape, even shoved an old towel inside it. I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with every light on until the sun came up. And for the first time in over a week, there were no footsteps. But that was worse, because it meant it knew I'd been up there. Knew I'd found the vent, and it was waiting for something. That night, something else happened. I heard a sound I hadn't heard before. Not above me, inside the apartment. A faint shuffling. I held my breath. The sound was coming from the hallway, like bare feet brushing softly across hardwood. But my door was locked, deadbolted, chained. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and crept toward the hallway. The sound stopped. Then I saw it. Right under the bedroom door. A shadow, someone or something, standing on the other side. Not moving, just waiting. I called out, "Hello?" The shadow didn't move. I stepped forward, knife raised, hand on the doorknob. Swung it open. Nothing. Just empty hallway. No open windows. No noise, no person, but the smell from the roof. It was in the air now. And it was stronger. That's when I realized something terrifying. It wasn't on the roof anymore. It was inside the walls. I started hearing whispers. Not voices exactly. More like breathing patterns that sounded almost like words. Always coming from the corners of the room, under the bed, behind the drywall. Then my lights started flickering. Not randomly, only when I stood beneath them. Only when I tried to sleep. One night, the bulb in my hallway exploded. Just as I walked under it, the glass missed me by inches. I called the landlord again. Told him I needed out. Emergency. He just sighed. Can't break lease without cause. What if something's in the walls? Like what? I don't know. A squatter? An animal? Someone is crawling around my apartment and pacing on my ceiling every night. He paused. You know there's no attic, right? That made me freeze. What? This building doesn't have an attic, no crawl space. The top floor's just beams and the roof slab, that's it. But I saw, "Sir, there's nothing up there." He hung up. That night I left my phone recording again. Hid it inside my dresser drawer. Camera facing the ceiling. Next morning, I checked the footage. At first, just darkness. Then, at 2:38 a.m., the ceiling vent shifts. Not much, just a twitch. Then something pulls it open from the inside. And slowly, painfully slowly, something begins to descend. I couldn't see its face. Just long, pale limbs. Moving too quietly for something that size. Like it had done this before. Like it knew every inch of my space. It didn't land on the dresser or floor. It stayed in the ceiling, suspended. Hanging there, watching. And after a few minutes, it crawled back up and sealed the vent behind it. I watched that footage 5 times, threw up in my sink, packed a bag and left. Didn't even grab a jacket. Just keys, phone, wallet, and ran. I drove to a hotel an hour away and told the front desk I didn't care what it cost. I just needed a room with no vents. I didn't go back for 3 days. Then Marta from 303 called me. Said she heard movement in my unit again. Asked if I'd come home. I told her no. She paused. Then who's walking around in there? I came back that night with one goal, to record whatever was happening. Not just audio. I brought a full webcam, plugged it into my laptop, pointed it at the ceiling vent, and hit record. Then I left. Sat in my car across the street with a hot coffee and watched the window. Nothing, no lights, no motion. Around 3:12 a.m., I saw it. Movement in the window. A figure. Just barely there. Pale, slouched, moving slowly from one side to the other. It stopped in the window and stood there, still, staring out into the street. The first time I heard it scream, I thought it was a dying animal. It was about 2 weeks after I finished building the fence between my yard and my neighbors. Just a simple 6-foot cedar barrier for privacy. Nothing fancy. The neighbor, Glenn, had warned me not to put it up. I wouldn't mess with that line if I were you, he said, arms folded across his ratty flannel shirt. It don't like being boxed in. I thought he meant property lines, boundaries, some weird old man neighbor rant. I laughed. It's just a fence, Glenn. He didn't smile. It ain't just anything. I should have listened. The scream came at 3:42 a.m. It started low, like a growl under gravel. Then it rose, a high, wet, broken sound, like a pig being strangled underwater. I shot out of bed, heart in my throat. It was coming from the backyard, from the fence. At first, I thought it might be a coyote or raccoon caught in something. So I grabbed a flashlight and rushed outside. But the second I stepped off the porch, it stopped. Dead silence. No wind, no crickets, no rustle of trees. Just me, the moonlight, and the new fence stretching across my yard. I walked the length of it. Nothing. No animals, no marks, no movement. But I swear, I could feel it. Heat. Coming off the wood like it had just been pulled from a kill. And something else. Vibration. Just faint. Like the whole thing was humming under my hand. I backed away. That was the last night I touched the fence. Next morning, I saw Glenn watering his dying tomato plants. He looked at me and nodded like he already knew. You heard it. I didn't answer. You'll hear it again. Gets louder each time. I swallowed. What is it? He wiped his hands on his jeans. Something that don't want to be fenced in. That doesn't mean anything. He just looked at me. You don't have to believe it. You just have to deal with it now. That night, it screamed again. Longer this time. And louder. I stayed inside. Blinds shut, lights off, clutching my phone. I didn't even think to record it. I was too scared to move. The sound lasted 6 full minutes. Then silence. In the morning, the grass along the base of the fence had turned yellow, burned, like something had leached the life out of the soil overnight. I walked the length again, still no damage. No scratches, no signs of any creature, but the smell? Rotten wood. Like wet mulch left in a sealed bag for too long. It hung in the air, even though it hadn't rained in weeks. That evening, I installed a motion sensor camera facing the fence. If something was causing this, an animal, a person, I'd catch it. At 3:38 a.m., I woke up to the alert ping on my phone. Movement detected. I opened the feed. The night vision flickered on. Nothing there. Just the fence. Still, empty. Then, as I watched, it bent. Not from wind, not from impact. It arched inward, like something behind it was pressing against the wood. Boards warped. Screws squealed. And then, a shape, not a person, taller, thinner, wrong. It pressed against the fence, just enough to stretch the wood, not break it. Then it opened its mouth. I think it was a mouth, and screamed. No sound on the video, but I heard it from my bed. Crystal clear. I dropped the phone. By the time I ran to the window, the fence was still again. No movement. No shape, but a single board had splintered right down the middle from pressure inside. The next day, I tore down that section. I thought maybe, if I gave it an opening, it would stop. But when I looked on the other side, there was nothing there. Not even Glenn's yard. Just dirt. Black, dry, and cracked, like it hadn't seen rain in years. I looked up. Glenn's house was gone, not damaged. Not burned. Gone. Just open sky where his roof used to be. I blinked. Rubbed my eyes. Looked again. Back to normal. House intact. Fence solid, but the dirt. It was still black, still dead. Part 2. I didn't sleep after what I saw, or thought I saw, on the other side of the fence. I sat in my kitchen with every light on, gripping a mug so tightly my hands ached. By sunrise, I'd convinced myself I imagined the whole thing. A shadow, exhaustion, a trick of the flashlight, but the dead patch of dirt stayed burned into my mind. By mid-afternoon, I went back out to look again. The dirt was normal now, brown, dry, but not black. Like it had reverted, like it hid when the sun came up. The fence stood there, quiet, still, as if it hadn't bent, screamed, or twisted in the night. I didn't trust it. I didn't trust anything about my yard anymore. I decided to take the whole thing down. All of it. Posts, boards, everything. I grabbed my crowbar and drill. My gloves, but the moment I stepped 1 foot into the yard, Glenn's screen door slapped open. He didn't even look surprised. "You're not tacking it down," he said. I swallowed hard. "Yes, I am. You'll let it out." His voice shook on the last word. I stared at him. "What's in there, Glenn?" He looked over my shoulder, not at the fence, but through it, like he was seeing something far beyond my yard. "You opened the ground," he whispered. "It don't belong on this side." "What doesn't?" He turned and walked back inside. Conversation over. That night, the screaming started early. 9:46 p.m. It jolted me straight off the couch. My hands trembled as I crawled to the window and peeked through the blinds. The fence was bowing inward again, farther than before. Boards stretching like rubber, bending, pulsing with pressure. Something behind it was pushing hard. The scream tore through the yard, higher, rawer, furious. It sounded like metal being shredded underwater, like lungs full of mud, like something that hated the shape of its own body. And this time, it didn't stop after a few minutes. It kept going. 10 minutes. 20. 30. My ears rang. My teeth hurt from clenching. At 11:03 p.m., the screaming changed. It dipped lower, slowed, turned. Wet, like it was speaking. I covered my ears and ducked behind the couch, shaking. The windows rattled. Pictures vibrated on the wall. Then silence. Not calm silence. Not peaceful silence. A silence so heavy I felt it sit on my chest. I peeked. Again, the fence was still, but one board, the one I had removed earlier, was no longer missing. Something had filled the gap. Not wood, something. Gray, organic, breathing, expanding and contracting as if lungs were pressed against it. I fell to the floor and crawled backward until my head hit the wall. That was the moment I snapped. No more waiting. No more watching. I grabbed my car keys, a gas can, and every lighter. I owned. If the fence wanted to scream, fine, I was going to give it something to scream about. I waited until 3:15 a.m. That was when the pacing behind the fence started. Again, that rhythmic push and pull of footsteps, dragging something heavy across the dirt. I stepped outside. The air hit me first, thick, humid, sour, like breath from someone who hadn't opened their mouth in years. The boards closest to me quivered. Knowing I was there, I poured gasoline along the entire length. My hands were shaking so bad the fuel splattered my shoes. When I flicked the lighter, the flame popped up. Small but strong. The board swelled outward. Something inside hit the fence. Hard. The wood bowed, cracked. Screws launched into the grass. Like bullets, I heard a voice. Not human. Not one voice, but layers of them, overlapping, choking out a single word that twisted my name into something unrecognizable. I dropped the lighter. The fire caught instantly. The fence lit up in a long, bright line, flames racing along the top like they'd been waiting for the spark. The boards screamed, not a sound from behind them. The boards themselves, the wood writhed, warped, curled in on itself, as if something underneath was thrashing. Trying to escape, I stumbled back as the flames climbed higher. The screaming hit a pitch that made my eyes water. My knees buckled. I dropped into the dirt and clamped my hands over my ears. Then something punched through. A hand. Or what looked like a hand. Too long, too many knuckles. Skin gray like cement, cracking open where the heat touched it. Another hand. Then something pushed its face, its head, into the gap. I couldn't look away. It didn't have eyes. Just hollows. And a mouth that didn't open so much as split. The fire clung to it like oil. It didn't burn. It stepped forward through the flames. Toward me. I scrambled backward on my hands and heels, screaming for help, for anyone, for Glenn, and for the first time since I moved in. His porch light turned on. He stepped out, face white, a shotgun in one hand, a bundle of something wrapped in cloth in the other. "I told you not to box it in," he said. "What is it?" I screamed. He didn't answer. He tossed the cloth bundle into the flames. It hit the fire with a sharp crack. The creature stopped moving, stopped screaming, stopped breathing. Glenn fired one round directly into the center of its chest. The creature folded in on itself, collapsing like wet cardboard, and sank into the burning boards. The screams cut off instantly. Fire went quiet. Just crackling wood. Now just heat. Just the smell of something thick and chemical drifting through the air. I lay in the grass, shaking, covered in ash and dirt. Glenn stood over me. "You're moving tomorrow," he said. Not a question, a fact. By sunrise, the fence was gone. Just blackened posts and a long scorched line across my yard. I didn't see the creature again. But last night, as I was packing, I noticed something strange. Patch of grass where the creature stepped, the only place it actually touched my side. It wasn't burned anymore. It was green, greener than anything else in the yard, like something new was growing there. Something alive. Something breathing. I knew something was off about my neighbor the second I saw him digging in the woods behind our building. It was nearly midnight. I had just finished a late shift and stepped onto my back balcony for a smoke when I caught the faint flicker of movement out past the tree line, way out, near the edge of the property line. There he was, shirtless, barefoot, digging, not like someone planting flowers, more like someone racing against time. The hole was deep, and whatever he was burying, it moved. I stood frozen, watching through the dark. He didn't use a flashlight, didn't even hesitate. Just shoved something long and lumpy, wrapped in a garbage bag, into the dirt, and started covering it with frantic, heavy scoops. When he finished, he stood there, panting hard, his body slick with sweat, staring down at the patch of fresh earth. Then he turned and looked straight at me. I ducked back so fast I knocked my chair over. My cigarette hit the railing and sparked out. I waited, barely breathing, for the sound of footsteps, the slam of a door or something. But there was nothing. Silence. When I finally dared to peek over the edge of the balcony again, he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. I kept picturing the bag, the shape of it, the way it bent, just slightly, like there were knees inside it. I told myself it was trash. Leftover meat. Something weird but explainable. But the next morning, I saw him again, walking out of the woods. He was wearing a clean t-shirt now, holding a thermos. Like nothing had happened. He caught me staring from my window and waved, just a big, cheerful, neighborly wave. I didn't wave back. I didn't know his name. Still don't. We lived across the lot from each other in a complex of 4 units. No HOA, no cameras. Rent was cheap and the landlord was always on vacation. I'd seen the guy maybe twice. Since I moved in, a tall, quiet dude in his late 30s, always wearing dark clothes and headphones. Never said hi, never smiled until now. Now he was all smiles. Like burying something in the woods had somehow improved his mood. That night, I waited. I turned out all the lights and sat on my balcony again. Same time, midnight. And sure enough, there he was. Digging again, this time farther to the left, a new spot. Same frantic pace. Same garbage bag. My chest tightened. Whatever was in the bag. It twitched, I swear it. He paused for a second, just stood there, staring at it, then pulled a rock from nearby and slammed it against the bag until it stopped moving. Then he buried it, covered it up. Pressed the dirt flat with his bare hands, and just like the night before, he turned, looked up at me. Smiled. I didn't duck this time. I just stared back, heart in my throat. He raised his hand and pointed, not at me, but down, to the patch of earth where he'd buried the bag. Then he walked backward into the trees. And vanished. The next morning, I went out there. I don't know what I expected to find. A body? An animal? Some leftover trash that would make all of this make sense. What I did find was the dirt. Still soft, still fresh, but something was wrong. There were footprints, not his. Small ones, like a child's, barefoot, pressed deep into the mud. And they led away from the burial site, not toward it, like something had climbed out. I didn't tell anyone. What would I say? Hey, my neighbor's burying squirming garbage bags in the woods at midnight, and now there are child-sized footprints leading away from the graves. Yeah, that would go over well, but I did start keeping my lights on at night. Kept my car keys in my hand while walking to the trash. Slept with a knife under my pillow, and the next time I saw him, he wasn't alone. It was around 1 a.m. I was up late gaming, window open, volume low. I heard the faint crunch of leaves. I peeked out. He was standing at the tree line again, facing the woods, hands at his sides, and beside him, there was something else. Someone else. Short. Still. I thought it was a kid at first, but the shape wasn't right. It stood too still, too straight, like it wasn't breathing. He raised his hand, rested it gently on the thin shoulder, and they both turned to look at me. I slammed the window shut and backed away. Nearly tripped over my chair. Nope. I was done pretending this was normal. I picked up my phone and called the police. They showed up about 20 minutes later. Flashlights, bored expressions. I pointed them to the woods, gave them my best version of the truth without sounding completely insane. They said they'd take a look. They were gone for 10 minutes. Came back with nothing. No signs of digging. The older cop said, brushing dirt from his knees. I blinked. What? I saw him. Maybe you saw someone walking their dog. You said it was dark, right? I saw the bags. I saw him burying. No bags out there now. What about the footprints? He shrugged. Just deer tracks. You want to file a report? I didn't even answer. The younger cop patted my shoulder as they left. Maybe lay off the horror podcast for a bit, man. But I know what I saw, and the next night, he started digging again. Part 2. The next night I didn't wait on my balcony. I waited in the woods. I got there around 11:30 p.m., dressed in black, crouched low behind a cluster of trees near where I'd seen him digging. I left my phone recording, flashlight ready, pocket knife in my sleeve. I didn't know what I was going to do. Confront him? Film him? Dig it up myself? All I knew was, if he buried something again, I wasn't going to pretend I didn't see it. The wind was dead still, the air thick and wet with silence. And then around midnight, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. He stepped into the clearing just like before, dragging a new bag. Only this one was different. It was twitching hard. He didn't say a word. Just dropped it near the same spot, grabbed his shovel, and started digging like a man possessed. I could hear it now. The thing in the bag was whimpering, not an animal sound. Not a grown person either. Something smaller. Then it spoke. Only one word, but it stopped me cold. Help! I stood up without thinking. The crunch of my boots snapped a twig. His head jerked toward me. We locked eyes. Me, frozen in panic. Him, drenched in sweat, breathing hard, eyes wild. Then he said, "You shouldn't be here." I backed up, knife trembling in my hand. He didn't chase me. Didn't yell. He just turned back to the hole and shoved the bag in like he hadn't heard anything. "Stop," I shouted. "There's someone in there." He didn't flinch. I ran toward him, and that's when he finally reacted. He dropped the shovel, turned, and stepped between me and the grave. "They're not real," he said. "What? They're not people. They're not anything anymore. It just wears them." "What the hell are you talking about?" He looked at me like I was the crazy one. "If you dig it up, it comes out wrong. You have to bury it before it finishes." The bag in the hole started shaking violently. Something inside was growing, stretching against the plastic, pressing up like bones, rearranging beneath the surface. A low sound came from it. Not a voice. Not exactly. It sounded like it was learning to talk. "You, then, you." The man lunged, grabbing his shovel and shoving dirt over the bag as fast as he could. I stepped back, stumbling over a root, too stunned to move. He covered it, stomped the dirt flat. The moment the last scoop landed, the noise stopped. Silence. Complete. He dropped to his knees, panting. His eyes looked wet, like he'd been holding his breath for days. "I have to keep them down," he said. "They don't stay dead otherwise." I stood there for a long time, said nothing. Finally I whispered, "What are they?" He looked up at me. "They're mistakes," he said. "Mine. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even go back to my apartment. I parked at a 24-hour gas station and sat in my car until the sun rose. Around 6 a.m. I went back. I had to see. I had to know. I went into the woods with a shovel. Same spot. The dirt was still soft. I dug. 3 feet down, I hit the bag. Still warm. Still twitching. Then it went still. I paused, pulled it out, cut it open, and saw me. Not just someone who looked like me. It was me. Same face. Same scar under the eye from a childhood bike crash. Same tiny mole on my collarbone. But the eyes, they were still forming. Swirling, cloudy, twitching side to side, like it hadn't figured out how to use them yet. And then its mouth moved. Not lips. Just skin parting in the same shape as mine. "You." I dropped the bag and fell backward, vomiting into the dirt. I don't remember getting home. Just flashes, the sound of birds, the stink of the bag, the shovel bouncing in my trunk. I stayed inside for days after that. Blinds shut. Lights off. Phone silenced. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it, the me thing. The soft plastic stretch of skin. The mouth that wasn't quite finished. The half-grown teeth. 3 days later, Glenn. Yeah, I finally learned his name, showed up at my door. He didn't knock. He just stood there when I opened it. Dirt on his pants, eyes hollow. "You dug one up, didn't you?" I nodded. He nodded back. "Then it's coming for you now. What do I do?" He handed me a bag. Inside was a shovel and an old roll of duct tape. "Don't let it talk," he said. "If it talks, it remembers." That night, I heard it. Outside. Moving through the woods with my footsteps. Calling with my voice. "Hey, where'd you go? Come back. Don't leave me here." It knocked once on my window. Then whispered, "I'm not done growing. I haven't left my apartment in a week." I hear it every night. Closer. Smarter. It speaks better now. It knows how to say things. I never told anyone. It knows how to copy pain, anger, love. It called my mom last night. I heard her voice on the machine. "Wow," she said, laughing. "You sound just like my son." I can't sleep. Can't eat. I buried it again. Deep this time, but it always comes back. The first thing I noticed when I moved in was how perfect her garden looked. It was always blooming. Roses, sunflowers, peonies. Full color. No wilting. No weeds. Even in late October, when everything else on our street was dying off, hers stayed alive like it didn't know what season it was. She lived alone. Middle-aged, pale, quiet. Always wearing gloves. Always humming. Everyone called her Miss Lila, and everyone told me the same thing. She's harmless. Just ... A little strange. They didn't warn me about the eyes. I first saw them after my dog went missing. Rusty was an old rescue. A little mutt. Harmless, slow, and dumb as a rock. He never left the yard. Then one morning, I left the gate open for literally 2 minutes while I ran back in for coffee. I spent the whole day walking the neighborhood, calling his name, checking under porches and in alleys. Nothing. At sunset, I passed Miss Lila's place. She was kneeling in her garden, hands deep in the dirt. As I walked by, I swear I heard something move under the roses, like digging. But slower. I stopped. She looked up, smiled. Not friendly. Too wide, too long. Like her face didn't want to stop smiling and didn't know how. You're out late, she said. Lost my dog, I muttered. Oh, I'm sure he's around, she said, going back to work. They always come back eventually. Then she hummed. Some old lullaby. The same few notes over and over. I walked away faster than I meant to. That night, I dreamed about Rusty barking. He was digging under the fence, paws covered in blood. Whining like something was wrong. I woke up to my phone vibrating. No call. No text. Just a notification. Motion detected. Back camera. I opened the feed. It was black at first. Then I saw movement. A shape moving through my yard. Not a dog. Not even human. Really, crawling, lumpy, dragging something long and heavy behind it. Then it stood. I recognized her silhouette. Miss Lila. She walked straight to my flower bed. Stood there. Completely still for maybe 30 seconds. Then she bent down and buried something. I couldn't see what it was. She stood up, wiped her gloved hands on her apron, and walked away. I stared at the screen. Frozen. The timestamp said 3:12 a.m. in the morning. I dug where she had. The soil was soft, fresh, not deep, maybe 2 feet down. I hit something hard. Plastic. A freezer bag. Inside it was a single dog tag, Rusty's, still attached to a strip of fur. Called the police. They showed up 2 hours later. I told them about the garden. The bag. The camera. One officer walked over and rang Miss Lila's bell. She opened the door like she'd been waiting for them, offered tea. Let them search the yard. They found nothing. Not a single piece of plastic. Not a paw print. Not a bloodstain. Even the bag I had pulled out was gone from where I left it on the porch. The officer looked at me like I was losing it. Maybe I was. Until that night, I woke up to humming. Soft. Right outside my bedroom window. I looked through the blinds. She was standing in my yard. No gloves this time. Bare hands covered in dirt up to the wrists. Her nails were longer than I remembered, splintered, black underneath. She stood there, humming that same lullaby, swaying gently, head tilted up at my window like she could see me through the dark. Then she smiled, just like before. Too wide. Too long. I whispered, "What do you want?" She didn't say a word, just turned and walked toward the fence. Slipped through the gap between our yards like a shadow. I should have moved out right then. Packed up and vanished. But I didn't, because the next day, I saw something in her garden. Not flowers. Not weeds. A face, half buried beneath the hydrangas. It was small, pale, eyes closed. At first, I thought it was a doll, but then one eye fluttered open and looked straight at me. Part 2. The eye didn't blink. It just stared, glassy and sunken, like it didn't know how to look away. I staggered back from the fence, almost tripping over my own feet. By the time I caught my breath and looked again, it was gone. Just flowers, just dirt, just the same perfect garden Miss Leela always kept. I spent the rest of the day pacing my kitchen, checking the backyard every few minutes, telling myself I was sleep deprived or dehydrated or just plain broken. But that night, I heard the humming again, this time inside the house. I grabbed a bat from the closet and crept toward the living room. The sliding door to the backyard was wide open. I never leave it open. A breeze moved through the room, warm, wet, smelling like fresh-cut stems and something sour underneath. Then I saw her. Miss Leela kneeling on my carpet, planting something. She had carved a perfect square into my living room rug, clean through to the floorboards, and was placing something inside it. Not seeds. Teeth. Tiny, childlike teeth, laid out in rows like they were part of a ritual. Her hands were slick with blood, one eye swollen. Her mouth was moving fast, not humming anymore, but whispering something too fast to understand. I lifted the bat. "What are you doing?" She didn't flinch, just turned her head way too far and smiled. "They grow better in homes," she said softly. "That's what I never told them." I stepped closer. The floor was sticky. I could feel it through my socks. She stood slowly. Her knees cracked as she rose. "They come back if you feed them," she whispered. "They always do." I swung the bat, not to hit her, to make her leave, but she didn't run. She grabbed the bat mid-swing, faster than she should have been able to. Her fingers wrapped around it with a snap. She leaned in close. "I can plant you next if you'd like," she said. "You've already been softened." I don't remember screaming. I just remember lights, my front porch, then silence. She was gone. No blood, no hole in the carpet, just a pile of flower petals where she'd been kneeling. They smelled like iron. Called the police again. They didn't believe me, told me to get some sleep, maybe talk to someone. I stopped answering the door after that. Stopped going to work, stopped eating. The flowers kept growing. Not in her yard, in mine. Pale little buds started sprouting in the dead grass. First one, then a dozen. Then they bloomed. And inside every bloom, teeth. Tiny rows of baby teeth, nestled in the center like seeds. I tried to dig them up, but the roots bled. Real blood, warm, pulsing. The more I tore them out, the louder the humming got in my ears, even when I wasn't near the yard. It wasn't in the air anymore. It was in my head. That night, I dreamed of Rusty. Except it wasn't Rusty. It was something wearing his shape, walking like a dog but wrong, jerky, jointless, twitching like it was still learning. It sat in front of my bed and opened its mouth. Inside wasn't a tongue. It was roses. Bloody roses, blooming from its throat. I woke up screaming. My bedroom floor was wet, the window wide open, and a single flower sat in the center of the room, still bleeding. I packed the next morning, didn't care where I went, just threw everything in the car and left. Drove until the signal died, until the roads turned to gravel, until there were no flowers for miles. I found a cheap motel with concrete floors and no garden, but even here, I hear it, the humming, somewhere just beyond the walls. And when I opened the bathroom drawer last night, there was dirt inside. Still damp. Still warm. I checked the rearview mirror when I left town. Miss Leela's house was gone, just gone. In its place was an empty lot full of blooming, blood-red flowers. The stems swayed as I passed, and I swear, they all turned to face me. I keep thinking about what she said. They come back if you feed them. I never buried anything, never planted, never watered, but I looked. I knew. and maybe that was enough. The first time I heard my own name come through the air vent, I thought I was going insane. I was brushing my teeth. Nothing special about the night. Lights buzzing overhead, old apartment tiles cold under my feet, the usual late night quiet. Then, from the vent above the mirror, I heard it soft, whispered, "Dylan." I froze, toothbrush still in my mouth, foam dripping down my chin. The voice was mine. It was my exact voice. Same tone, same rasp, like it had been recorded. Then again, "Dylan," quieter this time, like it was inside the wall now. I backed out of the bathroom and shut the door. Didn't sleep that night. My apartment's old. Cracked plaster walls. Vents that rattle every time the heater kicks on. You hear things here. Neighbors, pipes, pigeons on the roof. But never your own voice. I didn't tell anyone at first. What could I say? "Hey, I think something in my vents is impersonating me." Yeah, that wouldn't go over well. So I tested it. I stood in the living room the next night, waited until the building was dead quiet, and said, just once, "Hello?" From the vent near the ceiling. Maybe 5 seconds later, I heard, "Hello." Same voice, but not like an echo. It was like it was practicing. I asked my neighbor the next day if they'd ever had issues with the vents. She looked at me like I'd asked if the walls were haunted. "Nope," she said, "but I hear you talking a lot." "What?" "At night, through the wall. Always talking to yourself." "I'm not," she squinted at me. "You sure?" That night, I left my phone recording on the kitchen counter. Nothing fancy, just a 6-hour audio file. The next morning, I scrubbed through it while I drank coffee. Most of it was dead silence. Until around 2:43, Emma's scraping noise, metal on metal. Then breathing, close, raspy, right up against the mic, and then clear as day. "Dylan, are you listening?" My hand locked up. The mug shattered on the floor. It wasn't a recording. It was live. It was talking to me. I pulled the vent cover off that night. Just a few screws. It was old, dusty, lined with insulation. I shined a flashlight inside. At first, it looked like nothing, just the usual cramped ductwork. But maybe 6 feet back, I saw a smudge. A dark spot, almost like a stain. I reached in with my phone and snapped a few photos. When I checked them, I saw fingertips, not whole hands, just the tips. Barely visible, curled around the bottom of the vent like someone was holding themselves still inside the wall. Watching. I showed the photos to my landlord. He shrugged. "Squirrels, probably. Squirrels don't have fingers." He sighed. "These units are old. You hear things. What about the vents? Can someone get between them?" "Nope. Sealed tight. Nothing but ducts and drywall." I almost asked him to check himself, but something in me didn't want him in my apartment. Didn't want him to know, because whatever this was, it didn't want someone to know. It only wanted me. I started sleeping with headphones in. Not for music, just pink noise. Anything to drown it out. But it got louder. More confident. Started asking questions. From the vent above my bed. "Do you remember when you were 6? Why do you lie to your mom? Why did you really leave her alone that night?" Things I'd never said aloud. Things I hadn't thought about in years. It knew me. A week later, the vent in my bedroom was ripped off the wall. Not like it fell. Ripped. Screws bent outward. Metal warped. On the floor beneath it, in a perfect little pile, my toothbrush, my socks, a photo of me and my mom from 5 years ago. Things I hadn't seen in days. Things I thought I lost. Now just sitting there. Arranged like an offering. Moved my bed into the living room, slept on the couch. Didn't help. The living room vent started humming. Soft at first, like breath, then words. I liked it better when you were closer. I checked every vent in the place. Bathroom, bedroom, kitchen. They all connected to one central line that ran down to the basement. I'd never been down there. Didn't even know if tenants were allowed, but I needed to know. I needed to see if someone or something was living inside the walls. Part 2. The door to the basement didn't have a lock, just a faded sign taped crookily to the front. Maintenance only. I waited until just after midnight. The building was silent. I stepped into the stairwell, phone flashlight in one hand, crowbar in the other. Not brave, just too scared not to carry something. The air grew colder with every step down. Not just cool, damp. Like the vents were bleeding humidity into the walls. When I reached the bottom, the light from my phone caught the metal bulk of the ventilation system. Ducts stretching like ribs across the ceiling, disappearing into every direction. And right in the center, a square vent slightly ajar. Bent at the corners, like something had crawled out. I stood frozen for a long time, just listening. No footsteps. No voices, but something was down here. I stepped closer. The floor squelched beneath my boots. Wet. I crouched near the open vent and aimed my flashlight inside. Dust, fibers, a dark smear along the back wall, like something had been dragged through repeatedly. And in the corner, caught between a pipe and a bend in the duct, a recorder. Old, cheap, covered in grime. I pulled it out and hit play. Static. Then my voice. I liked it better when you were closer. Then another clip. Why did you leave her alone that night? It was recording me. And then replaying the words back through the vents. Mimicking. Learning. Pretending. Dropped the recorder. Backed away. That's when I heard it. From inside the duct. Crawling. Not fast. Not animal. Slow. Deliberate. Something dragging its limbs like it was letting me hear it now. Then, right at the lip of the open vent, fingers curled into view. Same ones from the photo. Thin. Pale. Nails blackened at the tips. One hand. Then the other. It pulled itself halfway out before it stopped. I saw its face. It was me. Almost. But wrong. Skin too smooth. Hair hanging in damp ropes. Eyes like wet glass. Open, but empty. The mouth moved, but the jaw didn't seem connected right, like it was floating just behind the skin. And then it spoke. You left me in the dark. My voice, but dead. You forgot I was here. I stepped back, shaking. It pulled itself further. Out, dragging its torso from the duct, joints cracking like branches. I held up the crowbar. Stay back. It didn't even flinch. Just kept crawling. I remember everything you forget. I ran, tripped up the basement stairs, slammed the door behind me, and shoved a bookshelf in front of it. I could still hear it down there. Moving, talking, repeating things I'd said years ago. To people who were long gone, things I'd never said out loud. I packed that night. Left everything behind but my wallet and keys. Didn't even grab my phone charger, just drove. Miles away. Didn't care where. Checked into the first motel I could find that didn't have vents above the bed. I thought it would end there. Thought maybe I'd outrun it. But 2 nights later, in the motel bathroom, I turned on the fan and I heard it. Breathing. Soft. Careful. Then my voice. You shouldn't have left. I ripped the vent off the ceiling and screamed into the duct. What do you want from me? Silence. Then, to be remembered. I changed motels the next night. Didn't matter. It followed. Every room, every vent, every fan. And it's learning more. I don't hear just my voice anymore. Now it sounds like people. I've lost. My mother. An old friend who died in college. A girl I ghosted after she told me she loved me. Their voices drift through the vents at night, telling me stories I already know, memories I tried to bury, and underneath it all, my own voice, rehearsing lines I haven't said yet. Last night, I unplugged every vent, every appliance, still heard it, right behind the wall. Scratching. Practicing. Waiting. I don't think it lives in the vents. I think the vents were just the door. I think it lives in me now. Her living room curtain was always closed, every single day, every hour. Rain or shine, apartment 1C, directly across from mine. If I opened my blinds just slightly, I could see the outline of that single yellow curtain always pulled across her window. Never a crack. Never a shift dot. It was like the sun had never touched that apartment. I'd never actually seen my neighbor. Not once. Not in the hallway. Not at the mailboxes. Not even during fire alarms. Just the curtain. I used to joke with myself that she was a vampire. Or a hoarder. Or maybe just allergic to sunlight. But one night, everything changed. It was around 2 a.m. I was up late watching something dumb. Window cracked open when I heard a sound from outside. Metal creaking. I peeked through my blinds, expecting to see someone rummaging through the dumpsters. Instead, I saw her curtain. It was open, just an inch, maybe 2. But after months of it never moving, that tiny gap felt massive. The apartment inside was dark. Too dark, like the kind that swallows the light. And behind the curtain, just for a moment, I saw something sway. Not a person exactly. Just a shape. Tall, thin, tilted slightly. Like it wasn't used to standing upright. Then the curtain snapped shut again. Fast, like someone yanking it. Closed in a panic. The hairs on my neck stood up. The next morning, I knocked on her door. Don't ask me why. Curiosity, concern, stupidity. Pick one. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Just as I turned to leave, the door creaked open. Maybe an inch, but enough for me to hear something. A whisper. Low and dry. Come in. I froze. Hello? Silence. The door stayed open, waiting. I backed away. Didn't run. Didn't look back, just walked away. That night, her curtain was closed again, but there was light behind it now. Dim, orange, flickering like candlelight. And once or twice, I swear I saw the curtain move, like someone was breathing behind it. I didn't sleep well. Kept waking up, thinking I heard whispers from across the hall. The next day, I asked my landlord who lived in 1C. He looked confused. 1C? That place has been empty since the spring. No, someone lives there. The curtain's always closed. I heard, trust me, he cut in. Nobody's renting that unit. Hasn't passed inspection in years. Then why, look, he said, lowering his voice. The last tenant wasn't right. Claimed someone lived behind the curtain. Said it watched her at night. She stopped leaving the apartment. Then she stopped moving at all. He paused. We found her tied to the ceiling fan. I couldn't get the image out of my head. A woman, slowly unraveling. Becoming part of that place. Part of the darkness. I promised myself I'd ignore it. Whatever was going on in 1C wasn't my problem, until 2 nights later. When I woke up, gasping. To the sound of my own window curtain moving. I sat straight up in bed. Eyes wide, skin cold. The curtain was swaying gently, like someone had just brushed past it. I waited, heart pounding. Then, from across the hall, faint, but clear, a knock. Not on my door. On the door of 1C. 3 slow knocks. Then silence. Then, my name, whispered from the hallway. I didn't open the door. I didn't look through the peephole. I just sat there, hands over my ears, trying not to cry. The next morning, I found a note under my door, a single torn scrap of yellowed paper, scrawled in pencil. Don't look behind the curtain. Part 2. I stared at that note for a long time. Don't look behind the curtain. The handwriting was shaky, frantic. Like the writer pushed the pencil so hard the paper nearly tore. I should have thrown it away. Should have ignored it. Should have moved out, but instead, I slid it into my pocket and went straight to 1C. Something in me needed to know. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. At first, then a faint, rhythmic sound, not breathing. Not footsteps. Swaying. Back and forth. Back and forth. Like a heavy object dangling from above. My throat tightened. I knocked once. Nothing. I knocked again. This time, the door opened on its own. Just a few inches, but enough to release a wave of cold. Stale air that smelled like old fabric and dust trapped for years. Enough for me to see the curtain, still closed, still yellow, still hiding something. I stepped inside. The apartment was almost empty. A couch in the corner, a rotted coffee table, a lamp that didn't work when I flicked it. But the worst part? Everything felt tilted. Like the room wasn't built perfectly square. Like the walls were leaning in. The curtain hung crookedly across the living room window, sagging in the center. Brushing the floor. I took one step toward it. The swaying above me stopped. Slowly looked up. My breath caught in my throat. Something hung from the ceiling fan. A woman. Or what used to be one. Head tilted too far. Arms limp. Hair hanging like seaweed around a decaying face. Her body was wrapped in what looked like strips of her own bedsheet, twisted into rope. She'd been there a long time, and yet, as I watched, her foot twitched. I stumbled backward, choking on my own breath. Nearly tripped over a pile of mail scattered on the floor. I grabbed one envelope, all addressed to Margaret Klein, Apt 1, see the tenant my landlord told me about. The one who wasn't right. But Margaret wasn't the one who'd given me the note. I realized that instantly, because the handwriting on the envelopes was clean, looped, tidy. Not the frantic scratches I found under my door. Someone else had written that. Warning, someone still living, or something still lingering. I backed toward the exit. Didn't run. Didn't breathe. But the second I touched the doorknob, something behind the curtain shifted. Not a sway. Not a breeze. A step. Soft. Barefoot. Heavy. Enough to make the curtain ripple. Something was standing behind it. Watching. Waiting. I pressed my back against the door. The curtain moved again. Closer. A shape pressed up against the fabric. Tall, thin. The outline of a head forming against the yellow cloth. Then fingers. They pushed out beneath the curtain's edge. Not reaching. Just brushing the air like they were testing it. Another whisper. Not from the shape. From above. The woman on the ceiling fan. Her lips parted. Slow and sticky. And she exhaled. Don't let it out. Her eyes rolled down at me. Whites yellowed. Pupils clouded. She was dead. Completely dead. But she was forcing the words out anyway. Don't look. The shape behind the curtain pressed closer, like it heard her. Like it was annoyed. The fabric stretched from the pressure. Couldn't breathe. My eyes burned from not blinking. Every part of me screamed to run, but I had to. See, I had to know. I reached out, gripped the edge of the curtain, and pulled it back. Just an inch. Just enough to peek. Just enough to regret it. Forever. Behind the curtain wasn't a person. It was a hole, not a window. A hole, a black void carved straight into the wall. Wrong shape, wrong depth, edges too smooth to be made by human hands. And something was inside it, pressed against the inside of the darkness. A face. My face, skin stretched thin, eyes open wide, mouth trembling like it was learning to speak. Then its hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. It was ice cold, hard, like bone left in a freezer, and it whispered in my voice, "Trade." The curtain snapped shut, ripping from my hand. The thing let go. The void vanished. The room snapped back into place like reality was correcting itself. The only thing left behind was the swaying woman on the fan and the echo of my own voice in my ears. I ran out of 1C, didn't stop, didn't look back. But in the hallway, as I slammed my door shut behind me, a piece of paper fluttered to the floor. Another note. That same frantic handwriting. It said, "You looked." I moved out the next morning. Didn't pack half my stuff. Didn't leave a forwarding address. Didn't sleep for 3 days, but none of that mattered, because last night, in my new apartment across town, I woke up to a sound. The swaying. The faint whisper of fabric brushing over fabric. Got up, Walked to my living room, and there it was. Curtain dot yellow dot hanging over a window that wasn't there. Yesterday. Perfectly still, until I stepped closer. Then it shifted. It showed up on a Monday. A second mailbox, right next to my neighbor's original one. Same shape, same size, but rusted, dented, and bolted crookedly into the wooden post like it had been dragged out of the ground and forced to fit. No explanation. No warning. Just there. I noticed it on my morning walk. Mailboxes lined the whole cul-de-sac, all tidy. Matching, except for 124. Birch Lane. The new box didn't have a number on it, just a name scratched roughly into the metal. Dorothy. The thing is, no one named Dorothy lived there. Not anymore. The house belonged to Mr. Kessler, mid-70s, quiet, gruff. The kind of guy who mowed his lawn at 6 a.m. sharp and never waved. Unless you waved first. His wife had died 5 years ago. Her name was Dorothy. At first, I thought maybe it was a tribute. Something weird and sentimental. But then the mail started showing up. Not in the regular mailbox. In hers. Envelopes with no stamps. No return addresses. Yellowed paper. Torn corners. One had just a single word written on it. Forgive. Another was heavier. The flap sealed with what looked like dried wax. Or maybe blood. And on the outside, in shaky black ink, I know what you did. I tried not to look, tried not to care, but every time I passed the house, I found myself glancing at that second. Mailbox. Always had something inside. Always. Mr. Kessler never touched it. He still went to the normal one. Collected his bills and coupons like clockwork. But Dorothy's box? He never even looked at it. Like it wasn't there. Then. One night, I saw him. It was after midnight. I couldn't sleep. Too hot, too quiet. So I stepped out onto my porch. Kessler was standing in front of the second mailbox. In a robe. Barefoot. Just staring at it. His face pale in the moonlight. His hands shaking. Then he opened it. And pulled something out. A small box. Wrapped in black cloth. He held it like it was fragile. Like it was dangerous. He didn't look around. Didn't notice me. He just turned slowly and took it inside. The next morning, the mailbox was empty, but the flag was up, like it was expecting a reply. That was when the smell started. Not strong, not at first. Just a faint metallic scent whenever I passed his house. Like wet iron. Like something had died under the porch and was trying to crawl out. By day 3, the whole yard reeked. Even the mailman noticed. I saw him pull his shirt over his nose and skip the box entirely. By day 4, flies had gathered, circling both mailboxes. Now, especially the second one. And then came the scratching. I was outside watering my garden when I heard it, faint, but sharp. Coming from inside the metal box. Like nails. Or teeth. I crossed the street, pretending to check my phone, and paused near the sidewalk. The mailbox rattled. Just once, then went still. That night, I left my blinds open. And at 1:23 a.m., Kessler came outside again. Same robe. Same bare feet, but this time, he wasn't alone. Something was behind him. Tall, thin, moving wrong. Its feet didn't touch the ground. Its face was covered in a veil, dark and stained, and fluttering like wet fabric. They walked to the mailbox. Together. He opened it, reached in. And pulled out teeth. Tiny ones. Human. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. The next day, I knocked on his door. He didn't answer, but I heard him inside, moving slowly, breathing heavy, and someone else, deeper in the house, whispering. Over and over. One word. More. I went home and wrote everything down. I needed a record. Something real. Something solid. Because now I was starting to smell it in my own yard. And I don't have a second. Mailbox. Part 2. The smell got worse. By the end of the week, it wasn't just in the yard. It was in the air. Inside my clothes. In my throat. Rotting iron. Rust and meat. Like a nosebleed that never stopped. I stopped checking my own mail. Stopped going outside. Altogether. But even through the windows, I could see it, Mr. Kessler, every night. Opening that second mailbox and pulling out something new. A small glass vial. A folded piece of skin. A ring I swear belonged to Dorothy. I'd seen it in old photos at her funeral. And always, the same thing happened. He'd take it inside. And the next morning, the flag would be up again. I tried to warn someone. I called the city. Left a complaint. Told them a strange box had been added illegally. That it was unsanitary. They came out the next day. Some guy in a reflective vest. He lasted 5 minutes. Didn't even touch the box. Just stared at it for a long time. Then got back in his truck and left. When I passed his vehicle later, I saw he'd scratched something into his notepad before fleeing. Just one word. Empty. But it wasn't empty. Not that night. At 2:11 a.m. I heard it. The screaming. Short. Choked. Mail. I ran to the window and looked out. Kessler was on his knees in front of the mailbox. Blood pouring from his mouth. His hands. The box was wide open. And he was reaching inside like he couldn't stop. Like he was feeding it. He placed something inside. A folded towel soaked in red. And shut the lid with shaking fingers. Then he collapsed. I called 911. They found him slumped on the porch. Still alive. Delirious. Eyes rolled back. He kept repeating one phrase. She forgives me now. They took him away in an ambulance. I watched them leave, then looked back at the mailbox. Still closed. Still there. Still waiting. That night, I heard footsteps outside my window. Not on the porch. On the grass. Soft. Barefoot. Too slow to be a jogger. Too quiet to be drunk. I didn't look. I stayed perfectly still. Then, a knock. Not on my door, on my mailbox 3 times. Knuckles tapping like a question. Then silence. In the morning, I checked. My mailbox was empty, but taped to the underside of the lid was a note, scratched in black ink on the back of an old envelope. Yours is next. I lost it. Walked across the street in broad daylight, hammer in hand. I was going to rip that second mailbox off the post. And whatever this was, I got halfway up the walk and stopped. The box was open. Inside was a mirror. Cracked. And written in red across the glass. We don't go back in the ground. I dropped the hammer, walked away. That night, I didn't sleep. Around 3:07 a.m., I finally cracked and looked out the window. The box was gone. Post and all. Just vanished. Not damaged. Not uprooted. Like it had never been there. I felt this insane wave of relief, like maybe the whole thing had finally burned itself out. But when I went to make coffee that morning, there was a package on my kitchen table, wrapped in black cloth. No note. No postage. No sign of how it got there. Inside was a flag. A small red metal mailbox flag. With something carved into it. Return to sender. I've started checking my vents. My closets. Under the bed. I unplug all the electronics before I sleep. But things still show up. Little notes under my pillow. Envelopes in the fridge. I found one in the toilet tank yesterday. It said, Dorothy is waiting. I don't know what Mr. Kessler did. I don't know why she came back. Or why she needs the mail. Or why she needs more. But I know one thing now. There was never a second mailbox. Not really, that thing. It was a mouth. And every letter fed it. The moment I realized I was being watched, I did what every rational person does. I ignored it, but I couldn't ignore it after I found the camera. I woke up at 2:11 a.m., sweating. The window was open, a thin spring breeze slipping through, chill across my chest. Light from the street lamp painted the room in stripes. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. I pulled my blanket closer. It felt wrong. Something felt wrong. I had this sense, not just someone looking at me, but studying me. I tipped my head toward the ceiling. Heard nothing. Saw nothing. Just the normal shadows. The normal hum. But the air felt heavier in my room. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. Screen lit, and that's when I saw it. A tiny red LED. Blinking. Slow and constant. Not the alarm clock. Not the router. A camera in the corner of my room. Just above the dresser, pointed right at my bed. I stared at it like it was concrete. My heart hammered. Why? I whispered to no one. Then I felt the cold. A presence behind me. My body froze. Goosebumps raced down my arms. I didn't turn. I didn't dare. The camera's red light blinked steadily. I walked into the living room. Lights is still off. Linda Blair movie paused on the TV. Blanket wrapped around me. I called my friend Sarah. No answer. Left a short text. I'm not okay. Tossed the phone aside. Sat on the couch. Stared at my bedroom door. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I waited until the sun came up. Shades drawn. Door locked. When morning came, I unscrewed the camera. Tiny screws. Hidden wires trailing up the wall. I wrapped it in my shirt. Took it outside to the dumpster. But when I got back, the camera was back on the dresser. Blinking red. My skin went numb. I thought I was imagining things. I thought maybe I was sleep deprived. But the weirdness kept stacking. At work, I couldn't focus. Phone buzzing in my jeans. A photo. My bedroom. Me asleep. In bed. Blanket kicked off. One arm flung out. Tim, East TAMP. 1:48 a.m. Yesterday morning. I dropped the phone. Coffee sloshed. Coworkers glanced. I deleted the photo. But another appeared 30 minutes later. In the folder. Night after night. Then I saw the face. Not in person. In the photos. A figure standing by the doorway to my room in the dark. It looked like my neighbor. Flat cap pulled low. Long jacket. Hands in pockets. Watching. Then the image flipped. The figure was closer. Leaning over the bed. Its face hidden in shadows. Heart pounding. I went home that night with the police in mind. But inside, I found the front door cracked. Just a sliver. My key still in the lock. Inside the hallway. The door to my bedroom ajar. And the camera. Mounted again. Blinking red. I told the police. They came. They took pictures. They told me they'd check for fingerprints, trace the wiring. But when I asked them if they could find the neighbor, they shrugged. Solid alibi, they said. No forced entry. When the officer left, he stopped at the door. Looked back at me. Softly said, "Lock your door. And maybe a new place wouldn't hurt." I left. That night, I pulled all the furniture away from the walls. Knobs, plates, mattress upended. Checked the ceiling. Under the floorboards, nothing. But I heard breathing. In the closet. In the vent. In the bathroom door. That low sound you don't notice until you're terrified it's real. And then the knock. One light. Tap, tap. On the door. 4:43 a.m. I froze. Knife in hand. Door handle turned slowly. Just a tiny shift. Didn't move. It stopped. The sound of the hallway silence returned. I know who's living across from me. Michael Reynolds. My neighbor. Into a green door. White trim. Old electric meter. He always waved at me when I moved in. "Welcome," he said. Then he never smiled again. Never talked again. Just nodded. He said he worked nights. Said he slept days. But I heard him walking in the hallway at 1. Floorboards creaking above his place. Now. I don't sleep when he's home. I watch his lights. I watch his door. Watch his shoes by the door. And sometimes, when the hallway is silent, I hear him breathing. That Friday night, I found the shirt. It was in my laundry hamper. White. His subtle green pinstripes. Initials, Mar. Smell faint, his cologne. I didn't bring it inside. Left it on the porch. Next morning, it was gone. Instead, on the doormat, a black and white photo of me, sleeping. Camera angle from the ceiling. No timestamp. No face in the photo. Just me, blanket tangled. Curtain open, against the wall. I saw the silhouette of Michael. He was pressed against the glass of his window, right across from mine, watching. Part 2. I didn't sleep for 2 days. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured him, standing at the foot of my bed, breathing, watching, not blinking. I kept asking myself the same questions. How long had he been doing this? How many nights? How many hours of footage had he taken? And more importantly, why? I thought about showing the footage to the police, but I didn't, because I knew what they'd say. Do you have proof he was in your apartment? Maybe the camera was planted by someone else. You live alone, how do we know you didn't set it up? The only person who ever had access to my place was the maintenance guy. And that's when it hit me. My neighbor Tom, he was the maintenance guy. The building had a weird setup. No hired company. No third party. Just Tom. He lived in Unit 2B, 2 doors down from me. Fixed leaky sinks, patched drywall, handed out spare keys. That meant he had access to every unit in the building, including mine. Started watching him carefully from my window. From the hallway, even pretending to take out trash just to catch glimpses of his routines. He was always out during the day, walking the property like a security guard. But at night, he stayed in, blinds closed, lights off by 9:30 p.m. And yet, I kept finding signs he'd been near my door. Scuff marks on the lock, a faint chemical smell on the doorknob, like someone had wiped it clean. Once, I even found a single fingernail clipping on my welcome mat. That's when I bought a second lock and a doorbell cam and a motion sensor alarm. I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe someone else had hacked the camera, that maybe I was losing my grip, until I caught him again. It was 3:41 a.m. I was dozing on the couch with the TV muted when I got a motion alert on my phone. Front door. Motion detected. I sat up fast, opened the feed, and there he was. Tom. Standing at my door. Not knocking. Not trying to get in. Just standing there. His head tilted slightly, like he was listening through the wood. I watched in total silence. He didn't move for over 3 minutes. Then, slowly, he reached out and pressed his forehead to the door. Like he was feeling it. Like he wanted to absorb something from the other side. Then he whispered my name, not loud, not urgent. Almost affectionate. You awake in there? I stopped breathing. The feed kept recording. Tom stood up straight, took one slow step backward, and smiled. Then he walked away. I called the landlord the next morning, left a voicemail, emailed, no reply. Not surprising, since the landlord lived out of state and probably hadn't visited the property in years. Tom was the only authority here, and he knew it. That night, I didn't sleep in the bedroom. I locked myself in the bathroom with the lights on and a kitchen knife on my lap. I kept refreshing the motion feed over and over. Nothing. Until 2:17 a.m. motion detected. Living room. I froze. I was in the bathroom. Door locked. All the lights on, but the living room? Completely dark. I clicked the feed. Saw only black at first. Then, the infrared kicked in. He was inside. Tom. Standing in the middle of my living room, facing the hallway. Facing me. I clamped a hand over my mouth. He didn't move, just stared toward the camera like he knew it was there. Then, slowly, he lifted his hand and held up something small between his fingers. My spare key. The feed cut to static. No error. No signal drop. Just static. I stayed in the bathroom until sunrise. When I finally came out, he was gone. So was the key. And every single file on the memory card had been erased. Every one, except one. A short clip, just 12 seconds long. It showed me sleeping in the bathroom. Not on the couch in my bed, but I hadn't slept there that night. I checked the bedding. It was cold, undisturbed. The image on the video wasn't from that night. Or the night before. It was from that morning. Tom had filmed me in a room I hadn't even entered. He wanted me to know. I packed a bag, didn't even grab my charger. I walked straight out, got in my car, and drove 6 hours to stay with a friend. I didn't say why, didn't say what happened, just crashed on his couch and pretended I was fine until last night. Woke up around 3:30 a.m. Couldn't breathe. Felt like someone was in the room. I turned over, sat up and saw the red light blinking. A camera, tiny, hidden behind a vent. Recording. And on the wall next to it, scratched and faint, jagged lines. You sleep better here. I ripped the vent cover off and found a phone, duct taped inside. It was old, prepaid, one of those throwaway kinds. Only one thing on it. Folder called Live Feed. I opened it. It was streaming. To his phone, still active, still watching. I dropped it, smashed it with my heel. But I know it doesn't matter, because when I checked my own phone, there was a message waiting. No number, no name, just one sentence. You looked peaceful tonight. I haven't gone back home. I haven't gone anywhere. He knows where I sleep now, and I don't know how many cameras he planted. I don't know how long he's been watching, but last night, I saw something that broke me. Something I can't explain. I was going through old photos on my cloud drive from years ago. College, birthdays, vacations. Normal stuff, but tucked between two photos I don't remember taking was a picture of me. Asleep. In my bed, taken from the ceiling. There's no way I could have taken it. No one else was there. And in the top corner, just barely visible in the shadow, is a man's face, half lit. Smiling.